Welcome back to Recording Principles. We are on week 4, Monday. You have made it to the final week through all the obstacles, I hope, and you have now one project to complete with a 2-part submission. Let's take a look at what we have going on. Take a brief glance at our materials. All right, so the materials this week, no vocabulary, no quiz for week 4, so round of applause for that, right? This is about grouping and group processing. It's going to help you relate what we're doing here in the workstation to what you would do on a console, where you might have many more groups like this. As part of the more expensive consoles, part of what you pay for is the low noise, and a lot of what you pay for is routing capabilities. Something like this that has 48 tracks of routing is going to be very impressive and very expensive. Alright, now let's get into what we're actually doing here. So Mix 4 Part 1. So check your due dates. This one's due on the 22nd, so Wednesday, and then the Part 2 is due about Thursday. So the Part 1's not a discussion, so that gives you all the way till midnight. You'll probably want to go ahead and just submit your Part 4, your Part 2 at the same time. And then you can come back and finish your discussion the following day. So, Mix 4 Part 1. This is one of my favorite parts, aside from compression and EQ and all that good stuff. I really like sonic spaces and mixes. It's something that's fascinated me always, even from back to listening to Pink Floyd albums and things like that. It's like, how do they get that space, that sound, some unrealistic place. And then I started to learn later that a lot of the realistic places were actually fake too. So it's all about today's gonna be all about time-based effects, which we're thinking reverbs and delays. Reverbs are creating a sonic space. So we're trying to create a sonic space for our mix, and for each of the characters in our mix to live in. So it will take some imagination. All right, so at least 2 aux tracks with time-based effects. Use summing stacks to group other tracks, and no processing the output track. And then here's a video about your submission. Don't blow this by not submitting it correctly. I can only grade what is submitted, so if you submit wrong, that's the same thing as not doing it right. If it's not the right thing submitted, it's not the right thing to grade, can't give you credit. So don't blow this by submitting wrong. Watch the video on submission. I have a yelling cat. Imagine the mic picked that up. Alright, so here's our mix. I just pulled up a random mix 3. I hope it's complete. Should take a look at the mix review. Alright, so let's look at most elements there. We need the track stack, so let's do that. Go over to our main view. Resize some things. Alright, so most of you have already done the track stacks for your drums. It was recommended before. Now it has to be completed, so I'm going to select and highlight all of my drums. Control I want to create track stack, create summing stack, sure thing. I'm going to let my bass live on its own. So grab the keys and guitar. Same thing, track stack, summing stack. And then one more for all of my vocals. In a larger session where you're doing a lot of vocal work, you probably keep your lead vocal and your supporting vocals separate as well. You know, some pop projects and things like that might have, you know, 60 to 80 vocal tracks and stacks that you're working with, so it makes sense to divide them more. Here, we're just not that complex. It's basically like a live recording, so no fancy stuff needed here. Just one track stack for all the vocals will do. All right. So, got our track stacks. Close out of that window. Get our mixer window. All right, so yeah, John, if you need to. So we have to think about a space. I can just start throwing cool things on because I heard they were cool. You know, I could get the latest, coolest reverb. I could do all that stuff. You know, I could go check online and see what's cool right now, but that's not going to help, right? You're going to have to use some imagination at this point because you have to know what you want to try to get it, or at least be able to, you know, have some imagination of what you want. So we have to imagine a place. Where's our band performing? Where is this thing at? What is our band like? Where are they? You know, are they in a club? Are they in a theater? Are they in a jazz hall? Are they outside? Are they, you know, we have to think of a place. Where is this song being performed? Where do we want to take our listener when they listen to this song? All right, we got one for outside. I know you have some suggestions. One for Red Rocks. It's very specific outside. I wonder if Logic has a Red Rocks preset. They probably should by now. The basement, the beach. Halls, amphitheaters, classroom. All right. Let's see if I can pull this off. I'm going to try to meet you all kind of in the middle. Let's picture like a cement dance hall venue with part of the roof missing. So we'll be part indoor, part outdoor. And fit the band a little bit. So let's say our walls are cement. That's what we said, cinder block. Keep that in mind. So let's work out our 4 walls, and maybe we'll use more than 4 walls. But let's start off with kind of our room. I am going to go, and I'm going to start off by putting this on the snare top. Why? Because the snare puts out a wide burst of noise, very quick. It makes it very easy to listen to and hear what the reverb's doing. Should probably go back to my edit window and set up a loop point. Oops, one button, Command 1. I have no sound. All right. I'm entering the danger zone here. Whenever I check the audio preferences in Logic, I run the chance of losing you all in audio. So let me know if I drop out. I'll keep talking. All right, all right. How are we doing? Can you hear me? All right, so you can still hear me. Good. Let's see if we got Logic. Can you hear Logic? All I did is just switch it back, and hit apply changes. That seems to fix whenever there's like an audio engine problem with Logic. That's a good troubleshooting step. Doesn't really tell you what happened that went wrong, but it seems to usually fix the problem.
Yes, I do. Every day. Every day. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Wanna thank every day.
Let's sit in this part. Now I got my vocals in one easy group. I'm going to mute them just so I don't get tired of hearing them. Alright, so back to our mixer. So I'm going to the snare top. You should all know this process by now, but it's very important, so make sure you do it. So to add a bus with Logic, it's very easy. You just go to a track, you add a send, you select any open bus. If you see markers next to your bus, that means they're in use. Don't use them. So grab a bus that's open. Now that I did that, if I scroll down, you can see that Logic opened an aux track for me. I created one. It appeared from thin air. So now I have an aux track. If I turn this up, what's going to happen? That's right, we just get a copy of the sound over on the aux track. Alright, so now I want to add an effect. We want to add some reverb. So I'm going to go to, you guessed it, reverb. I'm just going to grab the silver verb this time. So what kind of sound we can get out of it. Very basic reverb. So it's going to give us pre-delay, which is how long it takes of silence before you start hearing the reverb. Reflectivity is going to be how the high ends bounce off the surface. If we're dealing with concrete, we're going to have more reflectivity. Density and time often relate to that as well. But it's going to be how long it rings out. Sometimes you have two different controls. And then the size. You want to make sure you're 100% wet. I mean, obviously I'm just sounding crazy right now. It doesn't sound like anything realistic. Trying to get the size small enough I'm not hearing that slap back. I don't think I've ever used this reverb before, so this plugin. being concrete, it's going to reflect more highs. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to turn up the master right now. Hope it doesn't get too loud for you. Let me know the volume, but it's really hard for me to hear right now. How's that volume for you all? Alright. We don't need the modulation. How big are we? Are we a big venue? Small venue? Obviously, I'm going much smaller than Red Rocks, it seems. I don't think this band's that popular. I'd say like a 200-person venue. You can check the presets out too. A lot of things like compressors don't really make a lot of sense to have presets on. EQs oftentimes don't make a lot of sense for presets, but spaces, so reverbs oftentimes are a good spot for presets. That's their version of a hall. Let's make it smaller. I'm gonna pretend there's like more bodies in the room. Maybe take some of these lows off, but some high reflections coming from the top of the room. Anyhow, just imagine yourself a space. If you're having trouble imagining a space, try a different reverb. I'll show you another one here in just a moment. So that's basically going to be our 4 walls. I'm going to let that be our 4 hard walls. The space. We're going to add another reverb to make things more complex. We can go ahead and check that on the vocal. See how that's going to sound. Because remember, our lead vocal is what most people's brains are going to latch onto. It's where they're going to really feel the space. So now that we have one we like, let's see how it sounds here. So we're just going to go back to the same bus that we had. That's this bus 5 going to aux 4. It made for us. There we are.
Wanna give every day, oh yeah.
Now it gets a little bit almost esoteric. I like to do my reverbs using oftentimes more than one reverb device, and this allows me to create very complex spaces. And it gets beyond. I mean, there's going to be, you could go back and reverse engineer what I do scientifically, and it's all going to make sense in some sort of engineering aspect, but you can kind of get beyond what normal people think of when you just start getting into it, and then start turning the knobs and dialing things in. So having 2 spaces set up that you're combining as one space really offers a lot of complexity. So I'm going to set up another reverb. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set it up from the snare. And if we don't want this on the snare anymore, you can turn it off. You can delete it. The aux track will still stay there. Only needed it to get things set up. So I'll do a second reverb. I can go ahead and name these two if I want. I can name my first one Room. Let's see what we're going to use for this one. So if we go into our reverbs, Logic has this other thing available to us called the Space Designer. It's a convolution reverb. It's our most state-of-the-art in reverb technology. While we've had the technology for, I think, over 20 years to do this, we haven't had the ability to actually run it as far as processing ability. So this is high-end pro sound right here. That's only very recently been available to normal mortals. So now look at these presets. Now, one thing's interesting about these is they're based on what's called a convolution. So what happened was they actually modeled a very specific space. Logic will not want to pay necessarily for all the things they modeled, so they may not tell you. But if you start looking at things, you may see specific names, and that's everything's going to be a specific place. So chamber 4, this is whatever the fourth chamber of somebody's thing was. Here's a chapel, and it doesn't just say cathedral or church like you might have seen in many, presets. It's a specific chapel. All these are specific places modeled. So what happens, they go into a space, they make a broad frequency sound, like a gunshot or a balloon pop, and then they record it from somewhere else in the room, and they computer map what happened to each frequency and that whole spectrum over time, and then they recreate that digitally. So basically we're digitally recreating spaces. That's why you have so many presets and why there's so many specific presets. So if you're having trouble dialing in reverbs and coming up with your own space, which it takes a while to get used to, and even once you get kind of accustomed to reverbs, it can still be hard to get the space you imagine. So this can be a good way to go. You kind of pick if you're dealing with a large, small, or medium space. Please, we're not working with surround in here, and we're not doing the crazy stuff, so stay off of those for the sake of this course. But these three things, a plaster hall, interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever been around any place at old plaster walls. They have a very distinct sound. Very nice sound, actually. I like it. Wouldn't want to have to do the repair work on them, but plaster walls have a very great acoustic. See how this sounds? It's just a little brighter. It sounds like it's rolling off, but we're dealing with the plaster hall. It's actually how plaster sounds. It rolls off all the highs. So I guess it's realistic. I won't tinker with it. I might take some of the it's a high pass filter on it. Take some of the low end off. I don't like that. Alright, back to stock. Alright, so I turn this off. So basically now I've just got two effects that I like that are going to kind of make up my sonic space. So let's go back and put them both on my vocal. I can rename this too. Say some sort of hall. So let's take a listen to our vocal.
Every day, oh yeah, wanna give every day.
Now, you don't really want to put these on in isolation because you end up adding too much usually because you'll be filling all the empty space. But it can help you to get started, and you can dial back as needed.
Every day, oh yeah.
So that's nice. Sounds kind of expensive.
Every day,
We're kind of in a cheap dance hall, so let's crank up this one. It's a little more reflective.
Wanna give every day.
All right, I'm liking that blend, but now it's way too much, so back off until you can just kind of barely hear it.
Every day, every day, oh yeah. Wanna thanks every day, every day.
All right, so basically I know I'm going to want some blend of this on all of my vocals and my keys and my guitar, so I can just start putting the knobs up, make things easy on myself. So bus 5 going on all of them. I'm not going to mix them all the same, but I can just add all the knobs at the same time. I like to do this maybe because I come from a little more work in analog, and I like just having a knob ready to turn when I want it, just like I would on a console. So I like to set these things up across my tracks. So I can use them as needed. Alright, so
Every day,
start blending our vocals
every
in.
day, oh yeah. Wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah. Wanna thank every day,
Now, most reverb has this thing that happens where if you start adding it to a thing, even though you're adding more noise around it, you're adding reverb, it's more noise, you're making it louder in some ways because you're adding more sound to that, to that sound, you're pushing it back in the mix. The reverb makes it feel, gives the psychoacoustics of being further away from your ears. So remember that. You don't want more reverb on your lead vocal than you do on your backing vocals or other parts and things like that. Now, some very small reverbs like a plate reverb and things like that can actually be used to sort of thicken up the sound and can make it kind of come forward in the mix a little bit if it's a small enough reverb and done that way, and it's more of really just thickening up the sound and recreating a whole sonic space. But for the most part, adding reverb is going to push things back into the mix. So remember that when dealing with this sort of thing, it's going to make sense that your lead vox shouldn't have more of this reverb than your backing vocals and other things that are supposed to be behind the lead vocal. So remember to make the lead vocal a little more dry with your room reverbs, like your halls, like this. If you want to put a plate on, I'll show you that as well. You can put a little more of that, but as far as getting your sonic space, you want to push these other vocals back further in the mix.
Oh yeah, wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day.
I've way overdone all of those. You can already hear it, so start bringing them back down. It's a tendency, especially when listening very quiet or when listening very loud. You kind of have to hit that Goldilocks listening level.
Every day,
if you listen too loud, especially with speakers, you're going to pick up other reflections around your room, and you're not going to know the difference really between what's happening in the song. It's going to blend with what's happening in your room. If you mix too quiet, it's just going to be hard to hear, and you're going to end up putting too much on.
every day,
Always better to air with too little than too much when it comes to reverb. So if in doubt, just bring it down a little bit.
Every day, every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day, every day,
Just touching up the blend a little bit.
wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day, every day.
All right, same thing, keys, guitar.
Wanna thank every day, every day.
Now here's something really easy we can do in Logic that a lot of DAWs have struggle with. All right, so we've gotten this far, and we're thinking, oh, you know what? If I would have just done this in stereo reverbs, it'd be so much more, more complex of a space. And then with the panning on the keys and guitar, I'd be able to hear that come through. And with these have panning. So with Logic, you can just change your mind. It's very easy. Just go up here and click the button. Now that one's stereo. Click this button. This one can be stereo too.
Every day, every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day.
I like a lot of that reverb on the keys. I'm needing that one.
Wanna thank every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thank every day, every day.
All right, so let's thicken up our lead vocal a little bit. So before with a different style of reverb. Let's go ahead and make another bus. I'm going to go back to Space Designer again. This time, let's go for a vocal plate. So let's see, check out the medium spaces, plates. A plate reverb, let's see, small. Here we are, small vocals. A plate reverb was originally a big piece of sheet metal, and it would just kind of wave. Anybody ever had one of those old saws, the old thin saws, and you go, and it, the sheet metal waves and it makes that sound? That's what it is. It had a transducer on it, caused it to shake, and then it had two pickups placed not symmetrically to give it a stereo image, and then it would just pick up the shaking of that metal. They're very heavy. They had to be complete isolation from any air movement or vibrations. So they're very difficult to place and maintain in that sense. And then they're one of the first things to become popular in digital models. So this one is actually modeled after an old Lexicon preset, I believe, based on the plate.
Every day, oh yeah.
So let's go ahead and crank this up. Hear how it sounds.
Every day,
I like it.
oh yeah.
I want to turn off these other things. I'm overdoing it. But tell me, you recognize that sound a little bit, right? It's being slammed. It's overdone. But I'll play it again. That sort of that golden vocal plate sort of sound. There should be like this vague familiarity of that, because it's been such a similar sound has been used on so many albums for decades now, that there's gonna be something about it that should kind of give you a feel of studio-ness.
Every day,
all right, now it's like back to a usable level.
oh yeah. Wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah. Wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah. Wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah.
And it also helps my lead vocal stand out from the others without having to be so much louder. I'm just going to
every day, oh yeah.
all right, so now we got our keys in the space, got guitars in the space. I'm just going to turn down the keys a little bit, the guitar up a little bit.
Oh yeah. Wanna thank every day.
You can always tweak your mix at any point. Don't go crazy because you already have your fader pan mix set up correctly. But little adjustments at any time are fine. All right, I'm going to show you one more trick to doing this. Hold on, we got some questions here. Alexis, I don't even know how to approach that question for you. It's a yes and a no. It's a thing that Logic made up. Technically, no, but traditionally you would build them using aux tracks, but Logic made a separate thing. Not for this class, but yes, oftentimes in life you could add more things to your buses. That's part of their advantage, is that you can bus process, but we are other than the glue compression that was demonstrated for you earlier this month, and the instructions that you were allowed to do as an option, that's the only bus processing that we'll be doing. All right, so drums. We want our drums to kind of fit the mix. But if I go over here to this drum stack and I send all this drum as one instrument to the reverb, what's really going to happen? It's going to sound like chaos, right? Mostly because I've got the whole frequency spectrum, the whole hearing range is represented on that drum kit. And it's putting all that into reverb. You're just going to end up with white noise washing out your mix. It's not going to be very effective. It's just going to be kind of noisy. I'm not even going to demonstrate it because in the past when I have, people have for whatever reason decided that's the point where they want to pause the video and copy me, and they do a bunch of wrong stuff. So I'm not going to show you how bad it sounds, but I'll show you a way around it, because if you experiment with it, you'll find out. So it's a psychoacoustic trick, and it's been done for decades now, so it's not new to me. This really helps you get your drum kit to sound like it's in the same space as everything else without causing utter chaos with your mix and eating up all of your space. You take your snare drum, because it's usually played 1 or 2 times per bar, not often, and it's very impactful, so it's something your ears already latch onto, and you put them in the sonic space that you want with the rest of your band and vocals. So back here, remember I put these on earlier, I'm going to turn them back on. I'm going to hit play again, and I'm going to mix it in.
Every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah.
All right, so let's turn off all these tracks and let's hear the difference. All right, so we'll hear it dry.
Every day, oh yeah.
All right, effects back on.
Every day,
Glitched up right there, so let's do it again.
every day, oh yeah.
All right, so very different, although not extremely different, right? Everything's kind of the same, but it sounds more complete because we filled in all of the gaps with the sonic space. You know, we can do other things to the space. You could EQ after it and other things. You can get back into the actual units and keep working on the design of them. But basically, this is it. This is all you have to do. And we went 1 over because we did 3. You only have to do 2. Now, if you're going to add in a delay, I don't recommend it because the session's not been tempo mapped. So that means if you are going to add in a delay, you're going to have to figure out the tempo by ear. So I'll show you that real quick for those interested, but it's certainly not required and not even recommended, but it is another time-based effect. So I'm going to go from the snare top for much the same reasons I stated before. This one specifically because it plays twice per bar. It's going to be easy for me to figure out the timing. Over here on my aux track, I'm going to put on a delay. I'm just going to use the stereo delay. First thing I do is I put both these knobs all the way down, so that way they're the same. I know they're exactly the same because they're all the way down. I turn off this tempo sync button. Oops, that put them back up again. Put them back down again since it's fighting me. Thanks, Logic. Now hit the stereo link again. So now they're linked together at exactly the same. Makes it easy to work with. Alright, so of course, if we had this session had been done to a click track and had been done all completely in time and we were time mapped out, all we'd have to do is hit tempo sync and we'd have perfectly synced delays. This is not the case, and sometimes perfectly synced delays are boring. So we have to do this by ear. You can do it by calculator, by tapping and other things, but we're just very quickly going to try to get it in by ear. Turn up the feedback so you can hear more hits.
Every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day, every day, oh yeah, wanna thank every day.
Alright, so start slowing it down so you start hearing the repeats.
Oh yeah.
So you're roughly trying to get the number of repeats you want between snare hits. So remember, the snare is going to hit, if you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, the snare hits on the 2 and the 4 in this song. 1, 3. So if you hit 8 notes between snares, and that's going to be your that's going to be your 16th note hits. If you hit 4, then your 8th note hits. You can kind of count it out. You can even do triplets or anything else. But you don't even have to do all that counting if it bothers you. Just try to do what sounds good. But what you have to listen for is the next time the snare hits, make sure it kind of hits where it sounds rhythmically in pattern. If you hear it going dun 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 dun, then the next snare hits and everything gets out of time, then you're not, in anything related. So every time the next snare hits, it should be when you feel like it should hit. If not, adjust your timing until it is. And 3 and 4. Oh, we're getting a little bit too fast. Slow it down. Alright, I could keep tinkering with this all day, and every time I let go of the mouse, it like shifts a few milliseconds for whatever reason, just to frustrate me. So this will be close enough for this project. I think it's close enough for almost anything. Sounds good to me. If it sounds like good, right there on the snare, I know it's going to sound good in other things. Of course, you don't want to leave that playing on the snare. It's going to sound crazy, right? That's going to get real annoying real fast in the mix. So let's kind of see where we can use this. Let's check out our lead vocal here.
Oh yeah, wanna thank every day.
7.
Every day. Oh yeah, wanna thank every day. Every day. Oh yeah.
All right, so it sounds cool for about half a second, and then we get really sick of it, right? So the trick is to automate it. So we got this really cool effect, and we know that if we use it very much at all, that we're not going to like it, but it can be really cool, especially in reggae. See, reggae that's why I picked a reggae track, because you can do stuff like that. It does lend itself to sort of out there effects when desired. So we can go outside of the realm of realism with this genre. So that's part of the fun of it. So just wanted to set up basic automation on this lane, going back to touch, so that way it will only record what I touch when I touch it, and we'll play through, and whenever I find a cool place to delay, I'll try to draw it in with the mouse.
the love unfold. Yeah, I wanna give thanks and praises people to the Most High. Yes, I do. Every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thanks and praises, and I stay flying away. Oh yeah.
That last little vocal ad lib was on the harmony track, not the lead. I was going to catch it in the delay. All right, so after you've done that, just take your track, put it back into read. Remember, always put it back into read after you're done. Make sure it's green so you don't overwrite things. You do not have to do automation. Absolutely not required. Some of you this month have been more advanced. You're into this, so I'm just showing you. If you're not more advanced, don't let this blow your mind. Just kind of sit back and relax and coast through it. You will be doing this later on in the program, so don't stress about it now, but you can see it. So now if I want to see what I did over here, then I can kind of stretch out my vocal track. I can hit this little button here. I'm just going to show my automation lanes. No need for that to be so large or so small. All right, so I go in here. I'm going to go. This is my automation. I can see that's been done. From volume, I go up here to main, and it's going to be my send 4. So that's all the automation I did. Maybe I went a little crazy here, so I can just kind of highlight that and start dragging them down so it's not so extreme. So you can edit these any way you want, but it's kind of easy to draw them in and more natural. Kind of do it with the mouse. But all this did was put the send up. You know, the effect's just been sitting there the whole time waiting for something. Any questions on this?
Let the love unfold. Let the love unfold. Yeah, I'm gonna give thanks and praises people to the Most High. Yes, I do. Every day, every day. Oh yeah. Wanna thanks and praises, and I stay flying away.
I missed the automation on that one. All right, so remember you're bouncing. You select the whole length. So go up top, use your loop parameter. Just like that. All the way to the end. Command B to bounce, or in your file bounce menu, MP3, 320. All right, so let's review our instructions. What do you have to submit? This time you submit the entire session for Mix 4 Part 1, and you submit the bounce for Part 2. So the first one, there's no MP3, no image, but you want the whole session. So there's a video of me doing it in there. I'll show it to you. File. You hit save or save as. Make sure you've named yours, your last name, first name, mix 4. And you want to make sure this is package. See right here, organize my project as a package. All of this can stay checked just like I have it. You're really only using this one and the Space Designer. Either way, it's not make a difference, but your audio files must be checked. Space Designer needs to be checked if you used it. And then you hit save. Look at where you're going to save it to. I'm going to put this on my desktop right now. Use the shortcut link, save. All right, so this is it. I didn't rename that to Mix 4, but you should name yours. So you're going to take this whole project, and this whole thing has to be uploaded. If we look at the info in this project, they're not telling us how big it is from the this little view here. It's big. So this thing starts off, it's 180 megabytes right now that mine is. So that's huge. It's going to take a long time to upload. Plan for that. That's why this one's not a discussion. You've got all the way to midnight to get it uploaded. Please use that time. It might take you hours to upload. A lot of people's upload speed is a lot slower than their download speed. It could take you a very long time. It literally could take, over an hour, sometimes over 2 hours to upload. So please give it plenty of time to upload. If you're caught in the upload at midnight, it cuts it off, and you're dead in the water basically. So don't let that happen. So the really important, is to make sure you get it uploaded correctly. So properly named final mix session contains all audio tracks, uses elements from 1 through 3, made adjustments based on feedback. Use time-based effects appropriately to add depth and dimension. That was our reverbs and delays. Properly routed time-based effects using at least 2 buses and sends. We ended up using 3 or even 4 there at the last. Stereo effects send, selected post pan. It does this by default. That's back to the mix view. Anytime you select the send, if you do this drop down here, you'll see this post pan, post fader, pre fader. So right there, as long as you haven't changed it, it's good. All right, tracks grouped using track summing. All right, so shouldn't have been any problem or any surprises there. Your next submission this week is Mix 4 Part 2. It's the same mix, but the Part 2 is what you've been accustomed to. So the Part 2 is your discussion post. So you can put up your image, your MP3, and you're going to give feedback. Your feedback is worth double points on this time. So feedback is worth 40 points, not just 20. And you have to submit your MP3. And make sure your MP3 is the right version, 320. We've been using lower quality. Now we're using higher quality. You need to be able to change your parameters and know how to do that. Okay, any questions on that? Any questions on the submission? No, David, does not need to be VBR and bouncing the MP3, just the standard 320. All right, so obviously all the rest of your assignments, there's no quiz this week. Everything will be due before our next lecture. So our next lecture obviously does not impact your grades at all. What I will do is show some advanced techniques, some things that some parallel processing, some group processing, and some other uses of effects that we've done this month in different ways, using different routing possibilities to really expand the use of these effects in different ways. Why do I wait till everything's due to show you? Because I don't want you to mess up on things that are due for this class and try to do what I show you wrong or in some other way and cause you confusion and cause you to do damage to your score. So wait until after everything's submitted to show you the things that, the dangerous stuff, okay? So these are the things that were kind of too dangerous for you while you had things due. Might hurt yourself, might hurt your grade, but now Thursday, after everything's been turned in, I'll show you some. All right? So that'll be Thursday. I hope you all can make it. If not, of course, the archive will be up, and it will not necessarily impact your grade, but Thursdays are usually a lot of fun, final Thursday. And this, I look forward to hearing your mixes come in, and what all kinds of sonic spaces and possibilities you have come up with. Claude, absolutely. I will get into parallel compression on Thursday. In fact, I'll show you very specifically the New York style. All right, that's going to end our broadcast. Thank you all.